Hello and welcome to another episode of Baggers Chat. As always, I'm joined by Pato and Daffy. How are we, boys?
Good, mate.
Good, mate.
That's the way. Big game this week. I think it's probably our last game. Not last game because we play Adelaide next week, but over there, so it makes it a bit harder. But this is the last game where we can probably just literally put a team away. That last ditch for a bit of percentage or whatever. I think realistically, don't you agree, Pato?
Yeah, I think the next few weeks kind of just decides where we kind of go on the ladder. I think, me personally, it will be a big shame if we don't make the 8. I think we proved it well enough. I think that we're 2 games in front of 8 spots. So I think we should, as you said, I just think that the next few weeks, they should lock us in for wins. If we don't get the win, hopefully we can just, we'll be very shattered if we lose any of the next 2. But as you said, I just think that it's a chance to get some percentage.
Absolutely. I think the next 2, realistically, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, could come back to bite me. The next 2 should be almost just lock it in. Adelaide a bit harder because it's over there, but still, and they're 2 both locked, and then we probably win. If we win 1, maybe I'm happy. 2 would be absolutely amazing with the last 3. But Daffy, how do you rate it?
No, I agree with you too. I think the next 2, I think if you get to 13 wins, I know they're talking about a team will probably get to 13 and miss out. I just don't think, I don't know. I just feel like teams like the Dogs and Saints and Richmond, they just seem to be dropping games they shouldn't be dropping. And that's how I've looked at our loss on the weekend. We lost to the top team. I think people got to remember that. Talking about us, losing our edge or something like that. It's just a really weird look at that game. I know we weren't great at all, and Geelong are far better than us currently, but I think we really should be putting these next 2 away.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Do you think there's sort of been lucky in the sense that we've played some great football throughout this year, a lot better than we probably realistically expected? Have we been? I seem like we're always hoping for some team to win, whether it's Essendon or someone, or to beat some team sitting around 8th or 9th. And I think we've been actually pretty fortunate with that. Like Richmond losing to North, whatever the other week. I think we're pretty fortunate. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I think we've been pretty fortunate there, which is good. But look, we've been playing some great footy. But make sure you get down. I know you boys will be there. I personally won't be. I'll be at work. But this Sunday at 1:10 p.m. It's the first game I've missed all year in Melbourne. I'm even making up for it and going to Adelaide next week, though. So it's all right. But this Sunday, 1:10 p.m, Marvel Stadium. Last time we met was obviously not too long ago. I think it's the first time I've probably done this and said this, but I've actually played the team already this year, maybe. But against the Giants, we beat them by 30 points. It was pretty convincing, really. And what was your favourite memory, though, of playing the Giants, Ethan?
Yeah, the one you've got written down there. We don't really have too many great moments against them. I think, obviously, that 2017 win. I don't want to take your point here, but that was a good game. I think Giants were top. We were in a little bit of form. Those years, I think it was 2016, 17, we had these patches where we'd win 3 or 4 games in a row, but we'd still be shit. But we're a little bit better than, 2018, 19. So that was a good win. I think, that was a nerve-wracking game to be at. Fucking hell. It was like we were just missing shots and we should have locked up the game. Got the job done.
Same to them, though. Like, I think from memory now, and obviously I went the same one, was it Toby Green that missed a few opportunities there and he sort of stuffed that kick up and really hacked it? There was a few missed opportunities from them. He tried to thump it forward there or whatever. But that was a good win. I think they had literally a few weeks in a row, won very close games at the death as well. So we're looking like being another one, but we went against the grain and won by a point. And I think literally, if you look back, they were flag favourites at that point of time as well. Yeah. So that actually was huge for a pretty underperforming side like us, I guess. But Pato, is this your memory too, mate? Favourite memory as well?
Yeah, mate. It was pretty much Giants versus Giants 2.0 because we had guys like Liam Sumner running around. But I think half of the team were former Giant rejects. So, it was good to see the Blue Jays get the win. I was there. I know that I was there, level 3. And I went there with my mate who's a Collingwood supporter. And he was actually he was putting on all sorts of Giants stuff. And then he was like, it was getting into my face when Giants started to get ahead. And as soon as we got the win, we were all up and about because unfortunately that was our grand final win.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, sadly enough, it was. It was Wiedering that had that hack kick out of defence.
Yeah.
The Blues
Pay
fans
deliberate.
know. Yeah, they pay deliberate. Like
Yeah, that's right.
we don't know how long left back then, as well. Like it's a bit harder. So you look on your phone or whatever, but we didn't know how long left. So it was a bit worrying, but fortunately enough, we got the win and lived to tell us how. So it's good. Now though, times have changed. We've gotten a lot better. They're probably not the side they once were. What are your opinions on GWS at the moment, Ethan?
Underperforming, in my opinion. I think they've still got a chunk of those players that were in that team a few years ago, and they're not. I know they've got Phil Davis is probably at the back end of his career, and they've lost a few key players, but they've still got some some really good players in there. Obviously, Caniglio just hasn't had that form he had previously. Still a very solid player on his day. You got Whitfield's Toby Green, who I think is an absolute superstar, and a few others. But yeah, it's just they're quite young actually this year. I feel like they've hit the draft and they've got some real I think they've got I don't know how many debutants, but they're up there with the highest out of any club.
20,
and then
yeah.
and this weekend I see they've named, obviously it's Sunday, they named heaps of players, but there's 2 debutants named, so they could have 2 more debutants. So they're in a weird position. Obviously the coach leaving, but I think they can turn around quickly next year.
Well said, mate. Pato?
Yeah, I think I would disagree a little bit with underperforming. I think they're just a little bit overrated, GWS. I just think some of their players, I mean, it might just be down to their players not really performing up to their standard. Caniglio's probably been their shining light this year, especially because he's been captain the past few years, and he's probably been one of the guys that really wanted to step up. But I mean, guys like that, like they're on 1.2 million a year. Like Josh Kelly's on, I think he's on 1 million plus, which I just cannot believe. Like Josh Kelly's a great player, but obviously we'll touch on the ins and outs later on. But yeah, like guys like Tom Green, he's a terrific player. So he's probably going to lead their club forward into the future. But other than that, they have like guys like Nick Haynes playing up forward. Like I just don't really know what that's all about. And also Whitfield playing as a half forward flanker. Like, mate, he's a half backer. Just other than that, I just think there's some guys that have been shifted around a lot, and some have worked out well, like Harry Himmelberg. That's worked out really well, but guys like Haynes and Whitfield, not so much.
Just one quick thing on that. I think you can compare that to Carlton in past years, shifting blokes around, and you might go, geez, they've been good in that position, but you're still not winning games of footy. So, is Himmelberg helping the team by playing half back? I know he's playing good footy, but is he really impacting, leading him to wins? You know what I mean? Like, individually, he might be playing fantastic, but as structure-wise, system-wise, I think, as you can see with Carlton this year, blokes aren't changing position very often. And if it might be a slight adjustment to their position. They might play 50-50 up forward and in the middle like a Walsh. He's not getting put back pocket, which I'm sure he could play. But you know what I mean? It's just their system's just, I don't know, it's lacking something, I think, this year.
Yeah, I agree. What do you put that down to? Is that coaching thing? Obviously, the coach is gone now. So
yeah, I think, like I said before, a lot of young players. Looking at their side for this weekend, it's just they've got half guys you probably know very well, and there's some guys that you're like, geez, are they really in the side? So, they're just the mid-table, typical mid-table kind of team.
Absolutely. Obviously, they do have, as you said, they have some great players, or some players that are really good, but it's not doing them any good, I guess. Who do we need to look out for the most? I think for mine, it's probably seems to be the typical sort of player that gets the wood over us a lot is, Toby Green or something like that. Great player, in my opinion. I know people dislike him, whatever, but I think I'd have him in the Blues in a heartbeat, personally. But Pato, who are you most worried about, mate?
Yeah, I think it's going to be Green. Also, I don't know why, but I actually am starting to rate a guy like Lockie Ash. Like, I don't think he's going to absolutely dominate the game like he probably will this year. But I think in a few years' time, he'll start to really dominate. So, and he's got the pace like a Sard. He's probably not as quick, but I think he's just his breakaway sort of pace, acceleration as well. He's been really good. So, they have a few names like... There's a few names that really could dominate a game, but other than that, I don't think I'm too worried. But that might come to bite me back in the bum later on.
So we got Toby Green there, I think it was. So who stops him, or how do we minimise his impact?
I think probably Nick Newman would go to him if Plowman isn't playing. If Plowman is playing and he is listed, I reckon Plowman will go straight to Toby Green. because he's been pretty good on green the past few years. So yeah, other than that, I think Nick Newman, if Plowman doesn't play.
Yeah. Beautifully. Well said, mate. Ethan?
Yeah, I love Toby. I would have Toby at Carlton in a heartbeat. Geez, he'd be very nice with Charlie and Harry up forward. But yeah, obviously Toby is probably the biggest worry because once he goes in the midfield, he gets a lot of it. He's one of those good small forwards that actually gets heaps of it when they go in. Similar to a Zach Fisher role this year, obviously different players, but they're finding the ball a lot this year, and Toby has over the past few years. For mine, it would have to be Plowman if he's playing. I don't think he will play. I think he'll be dropped for Gov. I think that's the talk of the town. And Newman. I really trust any of these back six. Like obviously not the keys, but like even Asadi can pick him up if he has to. His defensive work's been phenomenal this year. There's a few which is good, and you got Stocker as well. So who knows? But I trust any of them to get the job done.
Yeah, I think it comes down to as well, like, a lot of them other players, I guess, they've got not too stressed about them. So whether, it's even a couple of players that can pick them up, I guess, at different stages. But, it's going to be good to see. It'll be a good battle. We'll get into the ins and outs now as well. Obviously, filming this, Thursday night, playing on Sunday. We've just got the extended at the moment. But Setters and Gov are both named, though. They're both in the field, so they're both playing. Which I don't mind as much. So, obviously, Hayes is out suspended for, was it 2 weeks, I think it was. And Hewitt injured, I think, for a back, I think it said. But is that precautionary? Injured / managed, do you reckon? Or
yeah, I'm not sure. He had back soreness this morning at training, so I guess what's the point of risking him? Even if we were versing someone good, you got that back end of the year. You don't want him holding on to a back injury, and you see that with Omac, with a back he's had that for 3 years. So backs are tough to recover.
Yeah, absolutely. Final 22 is named 5 p.m. on Friday. Obviously, with the interchange, we'll go from 8 to 4. Current interchange, as it stands, is Fogg, Stock, Nunes, Dow, Cottrell, Fisher, Honey, and Plowman. Boys, you've got that list in front of you. I want you, you go first, East. You tell me the 4 that are playing, then the 3 that are missing out, the 1 that's going to be sub.
Oh, it's a tough one. Carlton selections this year haven't been the most predictable. Especially in the last few years, some spuds going to come in, but we've got a few good players now. I'll just go down the list just to make it a bit easier. I don't think Fogg's in. I think Stock is in. He has to probably play. Nunes. It's tough, man. It's tough. I just don't want to be sitting on the fence. So I'll say Nunes is in. I think Bossy likes him. He must do something right. Paddy Dow might come in for mine, just due to George Hewitt being out. But you look at it and you go, Setters is in. Maybe he stands up, takes that role. So Paddy Dow, maybe no. Cottrell, you can say no for any of these guys except probably Fisher. Fisher, Stock, and Nunes, I reckon, are in. It's tough, man. I can't put my finger on it.
I only need one more. We only need one more. Fish, Stock, Nunes. Who's the other one? Plowman's out, not even sub.
Cottrell in.
Cottrell in. All right, beautiful. Paddo?
Yeah, so from those names, and I'll also just name Lockie O'Brien's, of course, in, and he's actually named on the field. But I'm going to say this right now. I'm pretty sure it was last week. I saw Josh Honey listed on the field. So I personally don't think that it's really down to what comes out on Thursday night, because yes, Setterfield might be on the field, but he might not be playing. I'm not too sure. So I'm just going off that sort of information. I don't know why, but I'm sure that I've seen guys on the field and they actually aren't on the team when the actual team comes out at 5 p.m. On Friday night.
Was that last week? Last week you said?
I think it was last week when Josh Honey was medical sub and then he was dropped, but he was still on the side. Like he was still on the team lineup.
I think it depends on it depends what app you use as well. I don't know. Like, as far as my understanding is, whoever's on the team, which is what the 18 or whatever, however many there is. Yeah. They're playing as far as I know. Then the bench gets cut from 8 to 4.
Yeah. So
I think LOB's a lock as well. I've heard a lot of things.
Yeah. So then I personally think that Lockie O'Brien will be in for Hayes, Mitch McGovern in for Plowman, and I don't think Setterfield will be in. That's only going off what I'm thinking. So if it's not I mean, he might be listed on the team, so I'm not too sure. But I'm not bringing in Setterfield purely.
So who are you going to bring in for Hewitt?
Yeah, so I'm going to bring in Paddy Dow for George Hewitt. So Dow in for Hewitt, because I just think that Dow's more of that Hewitt position rather than, as we mentioned during the week on the chat, is of course that Setterfield. I think he's playing more as a wingman. So I don't think if he's, because I've seen him play on the wing in the VFL. So if he's playing on the wing in the VFL and we're bringing him smack bang in the middle to fill in George's role, I'm not a huge fan of that. And I know that Paddy Dow's been playing in the middle in the VFL. So I think Dow would come in, but also we don't know because Will Setterfield might actually be locked in. But other than that, I don't think. Other than that, Dow out and Setterfield in for, of course, Hewitt.
Yeah, no,
one thing. Fuck Sunday games because they fuck around with the extended bench. Just get
Oh my god,
I'm sick of it.
Fair enough.
That's Josh Babe.
Listen up, Gil. Bloody hell. He's already vacating, and you've got to give him more issues to worry about. He's already getting in trouble for Thursday night games, and you're getting mad at Sunday games. I don't mind seeing a Setterfield, I guess, get a game. I wouldn't mind seeing Dow get a game as well. I think he's, I don't know if stiff's the right word, but yeah, it'd be good to see him get a game. It's good to have, I'll just say as well, it's good to have these games where we can afford to go, this person's a little niggle, let's get them out, give them a rest. And actually, before coming into the latter stages of the year and having games you're actually expected to win where we can rest players, not being the team that the other team's playing and they can rest their players and we get all excited because we win or only lose by a couple of goals, but they've dropped 6 of their best players. So it is good to actually have, Hewitt who can, if he's a little bit injured, he can have that spell on the sidelines. We're not too worried about it. Like we're arguing whether Setterfield comes in or Dow comes in. Like I think both of them will do just fine. But yeah, I don't care whichever one of them plays. But yeah, we'll get stuck into the key matchups now. Ethan?
Yep. So obviously last week we looked just across the board, and looking at a few key matchups on each line. We'll start off down back. So it's we just touched on it. Toby Green, who will play on him. Obviously, Plough is looking like he's going to be the out for McGovern. So it's obviously a newie. I think will take a Green. I think he has taken him before, if I'm not wrong, in some past games. But we'll look around the back line there. The forward line's not looking necessarily strong, but I don't want a Nick Larkey moment and Riccardi will kick 10 or something. So obviously, who's Wiedering going to take for you, Pato?
Well, I think it has to be Riccardi. I don't know why, but Riccardi always, I think he kicked 4 against Fremantle a few years ago, and I don't know why, but that always, because other than that, he hasn't really dominated a game. He's been really good in the VFL. But other than that, like you look there, like Nick Haynes, but I don't like. I think Wiedering will probably take a Riccardi over Nick Haynes, but yeah, not too sure.
Yeah, well, you look at it and you go, who does Young take? Because who does Gov take? Does he take a Daniel Lloyd or does he take Haynes?
I reckon Brown.
It's interesting. Sammy, for you, how do you reckon the trio of Young, Wieders and the Gov will be?
I think that'll be very good. I saw Gov play in the twos, pretty much as we said last week, won the game pretty much. I think it'll be very good because, look, they're not really too stacked. Like, Toby Green's a great player. Riccardi, as you said, Pato. Yeah, I think we're certainly going to get the win there, personally. But I'm very excited to see Gov come back. I think it's good to get a VFL game into him and then an AFL game that's no pressure, obviously, because we still need to win the game. But, yeah, definitely not as bad as coming up against Melbourne in a couple of weeks or whatever. But, I think we get the win there quite easily.
Yeah, and I think personally, we could hurt them coming out of D50 because last week, as the Cats, they really minimised, us using a Doherty and Sard. I felt they weren't very impactful going forward. They weren't terrible, but they just didn't have that impact in the meters game they've had in previous weeks, which really drives us forward and gets us as the inside 50s that we did against West Coast, which was absolutely crazy. So we'll move on to the midfield group, ruck, all around there, wings. So we'll start off with, they've got a big in for the Giants, and I don't mind this big fella. It's Big Prusy. I really rate Bruce. I think he's been kind of that second fiddle ruck over the years for North Melbourne behind Goldstein. Then he went to Melbourne, was behind Gawn, and then finally gets a gig as the number one ruck at the Giants. So obviously he'll be taking on TDK. Hearing Pito's got one more week in the twos, which I don't mind personally. Probably afford another week without him. What are your thoughts on this matchup, and how do you reckon he'll go? Because personally, I think TDK did very well against Bruce round 9. Pato?
Yeah. I think with Prusy, because I know that you said in the previous show, you're like, Prusy's the size of a house, mate. So
he's bigger as well. Like I think people say he's a skinny guy.
He's still pretty big.
He's a big boy.
You look at like
Bruce is the size of a house.
Yeah. So I think personally with Prusy, as you said, I just think he's been a great ruckman because he's been behind like a Gawn or maybe a Goldstein in North Melbourne as well. So he's finally got that opportunity, because it was weird because when he moved to Giants, they still had Sam Jacobs, but I think he then of course retired. So then Bruce stepped in and he obviously got that opportunity to really be that number one ruck. So I think he's great. I think it's finally he's actually realised that he's good enough to play as a number one ruck. So I think it's a great get by GWS. But as you said, I think TDK, it's his chance to once again just get another game as a sole ruckman until Pittonet comes back, because we were expecting him to come back this week, Pittonet, but of course he's not back. So I think TDK has another chance to just step up to the plate and hopefully knock Prusy for a home run.
the big house. Sammy, how do you reckon Tommy will go against the Bruce?
William Pato said it very well. It's sort of not much else to add other than, I can't remember last game as such in terms of the ruck battle, but just looking back at the stats, Bruce had 44 hitouts to Tommy's 11. So he definitely had a few more hitouts, Prusy. But looking forward to seeing how it goes. I think Tommy, as I say it every week, I think he's had a great year personally in terms of the pressure that's been on the bloke. But I'll go back to you, Ethan. So you're surprised. Like, you wouldn't have been upset if Pitto came in especially for a big fella like Prusy. Were you shocked though that he didn't come back in?
I'm not necessarily shocked. I think it probably takes a little bit longer for a big guy like Pitto to get moving again. I think how many weeks was that? It was like 13 weeks he was out, I think, since round 5. So just get the big fella rolling, and then once September comes, he can hit it down the throat of Walshy, Cripper, and Bam Bam.
Well said, mate. Yeah, no, that's it for me.
Yep. We'll move on to another midfield matchup. I rate this guy quite a bit. I just feel like he hasn't got to that level, that elite level, and that's Jacob Hopper taking on a Sam Walsh. I think they're very similar in a way. Obviously, Walsh being probably a bit more elite at that elite level. I think Hopper's a very, very good player on his day. Like a lot of these Giants players on their day. It must be frustrating to be, the coaching staff and the supporters for them, which aren't many. But for this match, I think they're both kind of mids that can push forward. And obviously, Walsh has had that more time at half forward this year, starting the games at half forward. How do you reckon Walsh will go against Hopper and the GWS mids, Pato?
Big chance for Walshy to step up once again. I don't think there's really anyone from the GWS Giants that can really stop Walshy, in my opinion. Cripper maybe, because I think they probably have that bigger body. But now that Tom Green's not playing because he's been managed, which is quite an interesting one. Now it might be, maybe Cripper might be able to dominate a game. But I disagree a little bit about Hopper. I don't know what all the hype is about him. I don't want this to be a larky moment. I know that we'll probably mention that about every single week for the rest of my life. But I think, I feel like Hopper's probably not going to be at GWS next year. I think we'll probably look elsewhere. Whether that's down to him thinking that he's not getting enough opportunity in the midfield. But he's not played much this year because I think he's been injured. If not, he's been in the VFL, which is quite disappointing for a guy like Hopper. So, obviously he's a solid player. He's been in arguably one of the best midfields for the past decade, the GWS Giants. So, other than that, big chance for Walshy.
Yeah, like I said, like you hit the nail on the head. I think he's just one of those guys that just hasn't reached his potential. I think about 21, 22, he was one of those guys that was really high value in the trade market. I think we were looking at him a few times and his name was swirling around the Carlton, GWS Carlton connection with Sauce, this manager at the time. How do you reckon Walshy will go against the GWS mids, Sammy?
Yeah, I don't know. I think Walsh has been a bit. I don't know. Like has he had the impact that he's had? That we've come to expect from him. I'm not saying Kane Corners is right. I'm not saying he should get less of the ball or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I think this is set up for Walsh to have a field day, and I think he'll play well.
Yeah, and he tends to play well at Marvel as well. I think the way we play at Marvel is fantastic. I think we're okay at the G. It's just we've had a few speed bumps, especially against teams like Collingwood that we should be beaten. But we didn't have our personnel. You got to look at it like that as well. So round 23, we'll see your Pies for your second grand final of the year. Now we'll move on up forward, and this man I thought was, although he didn't have the greatest delivery going to him on the weekend, I felt like he was probably one of his worst games in the last few years. He looked a bit sluggish, and just watching him a few times, and I don't know, he just didn't look like he was really in the game at all. Harry Makai. So obviously Sam Taylor for them, who's I rate very highly. I think he had a massive performance in the 2019 prelim, who a few Giants players did, specifically Zach Williams. How do you reckon Harry will go against Taylor, Pato?
Yeah, as you said, I think Sam Taylor, he's been a terrific player. I think he's really stepped up to be that number one key back, especially with Haynes going forward, which is, as we mentioned earlier, quite interesting. Yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on about Harry Makai. I think he hit the nail on the head there. I just personally think Harry Makai last week, he just looked a little bit disinterested to me, because I just think he's been such a key forward, and he's been so good with trying so hard every week to try and get his team up and about. And whether that was probably down to SDK, probably just giving him no opportunities whatsoever, and Makai just being so tired because he tried so hard in the first half where he wasn't really getting many opportunities. So maybe that's down to frustration with the midfield. I'm not too sure, but yeah, I think he's probably got to respond this week. Me personally, we'll probably touch it on a little bit later, but he might be under the pump, especially from a forward stance, because we've had a few small forwards that are out of form, really. And Charlie's been really good. And, of course, from the common medalist, he needs to deliver, and he needs to get better before September.
Yeah, I'll back him in for 6 this weekend. Sammy, how do you reckon the big H is going to go, mate?
Yeah, I'll back him in for a few as well. Yeah, especially Charlie. Probably back Charlie in for more. I think Marvel Stadium, I think we just play a lot better as a team. We say it every week. We say it most weeks anyway. Unfortunately, it's our last game there for the regular season. But yeah, I think both the forwards will go very well, and we say it as well. Like whether it's Harry taking the best defender or Charlie taking the best defender, if they're both on the ground, it frees up the other one. More often than not, unless they have a second really good defender, I guess like we sort of do in a sense. But yeah, I think at least one of them will fire, and I think it might be Harry.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Harry's due for a big one. I think obviously him and Charlie had a pretty big one over in the West a few weeks ago, both kicking 5. I think we can't forget about that performance from them too. Just for me, this is not necessarily a matchup, but just looking at our small forwards, and obviously our half forward line really struggled against the Cats. I think the half forwards are almost, it's a tough role, but it's almost the most important role because you're able to connect inside 50. So obviously you got Sauce, Charlie Curnow, and obviously Setterfield listed here, but we'll just talk about Mollops and Durdens. Pato, for you, for small forwards, what is the pass mark this weekend for a Durden and a Motlop?
Pressure. Seriously. 1%ers, tackles. I don't care about the scoreboard. Of course, I would love to see Durden kick 3, Motlop kick 4. But with me, it's just got to be pressure. Durden last week having 0 tackles, that's simply not good enough as a small forward. And I'm sure he would be one of the first guys to say that that's not good enough. I'm sure Vossi would have gotten into his ear this week, especially, saying that that's not good enough. So I think other than that, Motlop's been pretty good, especially when he probably was a late out. I mean, he was a late out when Oz went. He was a late in when Oz, of course, went out a few weeks ago. So he's probably taken that with 2 hands. And maybe he's kept his spot in for hopefully a finals run. But other than that, I just think it's just got to be pressure. Try and show a little bit more intent. And, of course, the small forward fleas.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think Motlop showed a bit in the first half last week. I thought he really just attacked the footy from the first bounce. So that was good to see. That's what I like about him. He's got that that killer instinct. I know he's young, but that'll grow as the years go on. What's your pass mark, Sammy? What is your pass?
I was going to say the exact same thing. Probably pressure. So the same as Pato said. I did find it interesting that Motlop was kicking 4, Durden was kicking 3. It's very specific. I like that. But I also do somewhat agree because I think that Durden's more of that pressure type. I think he can put a lot of good pressure on the little fella. Whereas Motlop's just got that bit more, as you said, he's like, I don't know what it is, like a bit more X factor about him in the sense that I feel like he could literally turn it on, kick 5. And so I think I'm going to get a few goals, 2 to 3 goals from Jesse, maybe a goal to Durds, but just pressure from Durds as well. I reckon it'll be great to see. But as long as everyone plays well, it's all that matters.
Yep, too easy, mate. Well said. Back to you, mate. Back to you with Andy Pump.
Thanks, mate. Do you like that? You had the air for about 10 minutes there. I like that. That was good. Okay. No worries. We'll get into under the pub. I'm going to sit on the fence. I'm not going to go anyone, but Ethan, who have you got, mate?
I thought our back six was very lackluster last weekend. Going forward, ball movement was horrendous. I know it's against the top team, but we were slow. I thought Lewis Young was a little bit off. I thought Wiedering was a lot off, but obviously he's got his, just building into his game. Hopefully he can have a blinder this weekend. But yeah, just back six. I think Newey was probably his worst game of the year. I know he had a lot of it, but geez, there was a few moments there where he turned it over a few times. We love Newey, but I think they'll back it up. I think this year our back six is probably the most consistent our back six has ever been at Carlton for the last fucking 10 years. So it's always been our issue, conceding goals, I think. Apart from a few years with Bolton where we tried to hold teams to like 40 and then win by a point. But it's been, our system's good behind the ball. It just got to continue to grow.
No, that was, well said, mate. We've got you now, Pato. And please don't tell me it's Plowman this week again.
No, mate. Unfortunately, Plowman. I don't think he's not there. He's not there. He's. I mean, as we mentioned, he's not in our best 22. He shouldn't be playing. If Mitch McGovern is back, I personally thought that maybe we could make that work, but especially with the lack of key forwards down there for GWS Giants, I don't see Plowman playing. So if he does play, if he doesn't play, which is expected, I'm personally going with the midfield. I think last week we just got absolutely smashed through the midfield against Geelong. Yes, they had they had a terrific performance in the midfield. Personally, I think that's where the game was won, but they've got to respond. Me personally, one name that I'm looking at, and that is the skipper, Paddy Cripps. He's been good the past few weeks in other areas. He's been tackling well, which is what I've kind of seen with Cripper, which is great to see. But this is when Cripper has to step up. And I think this is his chance. As we mentioned, I don't think there's anyone really from the Giants that can stop a Cripper. Walshy maybe. I'm not too sure. But I think it's got to be Cripper, if not midfield as a whole.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're just a bit I don't know what the word is, maybe a bit slow-ish maybe last week, whereas you see Geelong, they get tackled. I don't know if our tackling wasn't good enough, whatever. They get rid of the ball still. Whereas we get tackled and the ball just seemed to spill out and it was called holding the ball or a ball up or whatever. But, well said, boys. We'll move on now to... Actually, before we go to match predictions, just on Plowman, I think it's fair to say, he's been I always say he's been a good player. He's been a solid enough player for a couple of years. But we saw it in the first couple of rounds where he's sort of fighting for that position. I don't think he's best 22, realistically. Everyone fit. He's not best 22. Probably not the worst player to come in and fill a role. But, I don't really think he's best 22. Ethan, do you reckon he makes a cut, mate?
No, he's not best 22. I think, like you said, he fills a role. The good thing about Plough is he's pretty he doesn't get injured. Which is a positive about him. He stays fit, which is something our back six can't fucking do. So that obviously gives him a chance every week, just due to the injuries we have. But he's not best 22, but doesn't roll good enough most of the time. He's
not going to pull a heart muscle, I can tell you that. Pato?
I think actually that's a good call. That's a very good call. I think with Plowman, I think with me, the way that I said is he does his role. I personally think that when he goes to an opponent, he does his role. I think he keeps his forward opponent to very limited impact, but it's just the way that he uses the ball. And if you get a guy like Mitch McGovern in, maybe even like a stocker, so hopefully he can start to get some games in the best 22 stocker. But I don't think Plowman's really best 22. He's just not there. I don't know if that's just down to him being mucked around a little, especially with him going forward at the start of the year. I know that he was doing that just in the practice games, but I just think he's just been mucked around a little, especially since he had that really good year in 2020. So I'm a little bit worried about Plowman, but as I said, I think he's a good person that you can kind of trust to do his role, but it's kind of just what he does with the footy.
Yeah, that's fair enough. For me, with Plough, a few times throughout the year, he actually played pretty well. When he actually broke into the side at the start of the year, I think he played pretty well. When he was taking the game on there, like he actually looked good. But I don't know, he sort of seemed to have gone back into his shell, Ethan. I don't know. What do you reckon?
Yeah, and I don't know, he just doesn't seem as clean with like just taking marks and like in that Sydney game, he was fucking running off half back, and I know he got done holding the ball in the middle, but like Lockie Plowman taking the game on was ridiculous. I've never seen that in my life. But yeah, he's just not taking marks. He just doesn't seem to have that impact and confidence, which I find surprising. And I think Carlton as a team, our confidence hasn't dipped, but just a little bit of a plateau when we play, because we seem to have too many of these quarters where we go in our shells and we push the ball backwards and put pressure on ourselves. So maybe that's the reason. Maybe it's as a collective rather than him individually. But yeah, he should really be confident because he's got great players around him.
Absolutely. And on Gov this week, just first week, if he plays, which I just think he definitely does, what's the biggest thing you want to see? Obviously, we want to see him get through the game and be all good at the end of it. But what's the one thing you're expecting from him, Pato?
I want him to just do what he does best, and that's just play off instinct. I know that, especially with round one, we did see him just take the game on. Like when he took that shot off half back, I know that he hit the post, I think, round one, but that's what we was just so excited about. And it's just like, it's something that we haven't seen. It's something that we haven't seen in a few years. And we've just taken that. I think he's taken that with two hands. Like I know that me personally, I was I'm not too sure about him going back. I mean, I know that I was a bit like that. I know that a lot of people were saying that he's got the genetics because of McGovern, his brother, of course. But I think I'm just so stoked. I reckon this is probably one of our biggest things of the year, because I think he's just that sort of game changer. That Sard's different because he's probably that X factor, but I think he's crafty in a way, I think. He's got the pace as well. He's got the pace. So I think his ball use is fantastic. So no, I'm stoked. I'm stoked to see him back in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's going to be good too, because he sort of takes the game on, which is what we liked from Plowman there for a bit, where he's not doing it now so as much. So I think if he comes out, Gov goes in, he'll take that game on. And if they do, like a Geelong can somehow shut down Doherty and Sard, which I don't think they'd be able to do, just got Gov to worry about, Ethan. So how do you reckon you're going to see his game? Or what do you want to see from him, mate?
Absolutely spot on. I was about to say that. It takes a little bit of pressure off Doc and Sard, because round one, I thought he was absolutely superb. I think he set up a few of Cripps goals, just going inside 50 and lowering the eyes. Like, how good's that to see? I think I know when he was playing up forward, it was tough, and we were just got to remember we were fucking terrible. Like there was some play, like Lockie O'Brien wasn't great during that time. There's a few players that weren't great. When you're in a system that works and it works for your strengths, that's when players start to come out and kind of evolve into a star. And I think Gov can be that star, that kind of intercept, kind of like Lever a little bit. I reckon he's a bit more, he's got a lot of athleticism, can fly at the ball. He's pretty nuts flying at the ball. Like being that third up, Wiedering and Young can just take their man, and the Gov can sit on some heads this weekend.
Absolutely, mate. And I just with them players as well, like your Lockie O'Brien, your McGoverns, we'll go Plowman to an extent, and if numerous others, they haven't gotten better. Like Voss hasn't come in and gave him some of Dank's special juice. Like the structure is actually what's playing them in obviously the right positions to start off with, but just they're all buying into the same mentality, the structure, like everything has built this club, or built this team to where they are now. Like they haven't gotten better as such, maybe a little bit, but like it's just what Vossi's brought in. What's the one thing you've been most proud of the boys for this year, Ethan?
Not worrying about personnel. I think we've had a terrible luck with injuries in past years. We would not be in the 8 right now. We would not be in the 8. We were season over once Wettering went down. Wouldn't have won a game since. And yeah, like seriously, smashing Freo here with fucking Kemp playing fullback. Like you just got to think about that stuff, and it's just next man up, and shows how good the system is from Voss, Hansen, Hamill, all these guys. They've come in to the club. They've all come in together, which I love. They've all come in together. They've gone, this is how we want to play. This is how Carlton Football Club will play this year. And we've done it every week. Even in losses, we've backed our system.
Absolutely. I think that's a good thing. I think the fact that everyone is new to an extent is probably the better thing. They haven't got any preconceived what's happened in the past. It's all let's start fresh, do it from 2022. Pato, what's the proudest or what's the best thing you've seen all year, or most happiest?
I just think it's the involvement with the club, with the whole supporters, just the membership, just everything as a whole. Carlton are doing it for their fans, because I know that especially at the start of the year, they were saying, we want to give back to the fans. I'm like, oh, I've heard this before. I've heard this for the past 5 years. Like I've heard this for the past 10 years. And they're doing it. And you can actually see the joy after they win. You can actually see, like this group is tight, man. Like this group is very, very close. And I'm telling you, it is all down to team chemistry. It is all down to a culture within the football club. And as Dave said, I think plenty of people have come into the club, and it's pretty much been a minor rebuild, and we just haven't seen it like that at all, because we have the same sort of players, but it's just personally, it's just down to trusting this system and also playing for the actual jumper, not for the number on the back. I think that's what is actually said on the actual jumper at the bottom. But yeah, it's just right now, what I've seen personally, it's not really down to individual performances. It's more down to the system as a whole, and just trying to get wins, and hopefully get some wins for September.
Absolutely, mate. You know it's written on the jumper because you read it out on the podcast last year, from not mistaken as well. Not in a very happy tone, I don't think, either, from memory.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I did too.
Would have been one of angry potty.
I think that may have been after the West Coast game. I think that may have been after the West Coast game. Be like, we played against the West Coast VFL side, and we lost.
VFL, not waffle.
Oh, waffle.
Another one, yeah, well said, everyone. We'll get to match predictions right now. Number one person as well I want to shout out, we didn't mention, for mine has been Nick Austin. Like, he's probably the one that's been at the club for at least a couple of years now, maybe 2-3 years. And look, we see Josh Kennedy, well in the past, go to a club, excel, whereas the players who have actually gotten rid of, SPS, done nothing, let's be real. Was never going to do anything. The players that were brought in, though, fuck me, I'm sorry, but Lewis Young, Hewitt, Chera, to a lesser extent, I'm going to say, I think he's actually been a bit underwhelming as of late in my eyes, but I'll cop a bit for that. But shout out to Nick Austin. I think he's done a great job, and you go, Ethan.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think it's not talked about enough. Nick Austin, he's picked up Sard, Williams. He's picked up Jordan Boyd in the mid-season draft. He's drafted Durden. He's drafted Motlop. He's picked up Chera, Hewitt. Just touching on Chera quickly, there was a comparison with his numbers from last year and this year, and it's actually gone up. But we'll go to the match predictions.
It's a hard comparison to make, though, I think, coming from a different team. You're through. Yeah. But yeah, no, good point, mate. Good point. All right, match predictions. Pato, how much do the Blues win by? Who's kicking the first, and who's best on ground, mate?
Yeah, so I've got Motlop to kick 25, Blue Baggers by 100. No. I've got first goal, of course. I've got Jesse Motlop. I think he's been really good the past few weeks, especially as we mentioned. I just think as soon as he got that opportunity, I think he's taken it with two hands, and he's really starting to look good. So, and he's just that X factor sort of player. So, Me personally, I think he's been absolutely terrific. So yeah, I think he will kick the first goal. Best on ground. I called it earlier. I'm going to say it again. Paddy Cripps, I think he's just got to start to step up to the plate. He's just got to really have that leadership sort of mindset, that not be selfish and win the game off his own boot, but just impact the game more. And I know that that's when I feel like out of everyone on the list, when Paddy Cripps gets up and going, everyone comes with him. That's how I see it. I know that I saw it in the first 6 or 7 weeks when we were up and about. So I've got Paddy Cripps for 33 touches, maybe a goal or two, but I will see. And of course, I've gone Blue Baggers by 29 points. Not too optimistic, but still a solid win from the Blue Baggers.
Absolutely, mate. Definitely optimistic enough, though. Ethan?
Yeah, Big H. He's going to have 6, the big fella. He's going to put the Giants to sleep, he will. Kicking the first snag of the day. A little snap from 25, I reckon. Probably 2.5 minutes into the game, I reckon. The Giants will try and lock us up at the start, and then Big Harry will get a holding free. Geez, I'm getting real specific here, but 2 minutes 30, if he kicks a goal, you owe me a beer. So next, best on ground, Lockie Plowman. Oh, wait, sorry. Best on ground, Sammy Walsh. Sammy, I thought Pat was going to abuse me then. Best on ground, yeah, Sammy Walsh. I think he could break the 40, I reckon, this week. And the Blues by 55, I think it has to be done. Yeah. With their outs, their personnel out, they're shit with them personnel. So don't want that to bite me in the ass, like we said previously in this episode, but 55 points to the Blue Baggers on a Sunday Arvo.
First goal is going to Fish, no two ways about it. We're talking about the 30 disposals and 3 goals or 2 goals, whatever it was, for Cripper early on in the year. That's Fish's game this week. With Hewitt out, you're worrying about Dow, Setterfield, what happens there, stressing. Setterfield maybe half forward, I think it's for his name potentially, doesn't really mean anything. But Fish goes in there and just wins the ball, racks up the 30, kicks the 2 goals and Blues win by 48 points. How's that?
I like the sound of that, Sammy.
Yeah.
I really do.
Thank you. Of course, I will be at the VFL though, so I'm not sure if you boys will be there or not, but I will make up for it in some way. Saturday, Icon Park, 6:05 p.m. I'll see you boys there, and Ethan, you get the first round, mate. Other than that, I think that's about it, boys. Anything else to add?
Just get the job done. Next 2 weeks, we're in finals, and just think about it. September footy against the Pies, I reckon. Against the Pies.
Did say it earlier in the year, imagine if you play the Pies, was the last game, whatever it is, for a top 8. We hope it doesn't get that far. We're going to make the 8. It's no worries at all. But it would be a big game. It's going to be a big game nonetheless. But yeah, that's well said, mate. See Cripper stand up this week, marches on into September, and who knows what can happen, Pato.
Yeah, just like, I just feel like the next few weeks, if we can get through the next few weeks, 2 wins, I'm stoked. Seriously, that's pretty much a finals lock. But yeah, hopefully, either we can get some personnels in that we're starting to see now, starting to come back into the side. Each week we just keep on getting stronger. So hopefully we can get some chemistry and win the premiership.
win the next 2. Win the next 2, and we can hit these last 4 games hard, because I think with a full strength side, we can beat this Collingwood team that keeps falling over the fucking line. So
yeah,
let's get the job done.
Bang. Obviously, Marchbank as well. I think he was he ready for selection this week?
Yeah, I think he's playing 2s.
He is.
Playing 2s? Yeah, sweet. So we'll all see him Saturday at 6:05 p.m. Beautiful. Good luck to Marchie. Good luck to the VFL. Good luck to the AFL. Thanks for listening or watching. However you get your content, like, subscribe, do it all. And Pato or Ethan, you got the scarf as well, boys, as always.
Making sure that making sure that I've got it the right way, boys. Up the Baggers!